So I thought I'd do something a little bit topical this week, because most of my audience might be doing this by Christmas, if Trussellini and Kwame Kwasi get their way. Yeah, it's Eat the Rich.
Hi, we're starting a people's uprising. Do you fancy joining us?
Yes, I'd love to. Come on then.
A late 80s low-budget British political satire that attempts to lampoon the worst of Thatcherite Britain. Only thing is, it less lampoons the worst of modern conservative Britain and just reflects it. The plot is fairly nonsensical, but does have at least some narrative through lines that largely revolve around three main characters. Alex, played by Lana Pillai, a loud, foul-mouthed, violent and self-confident black transsexual, or in other words, a right-wing male's worst nightmare. The only way she could be scarier to them is if she was cosplaying as the Little Mermaid, or playing a crystal flute. She isn't, by the way. She's a waitress in a high-end restaurant called Bastards, which serves endangered animals like baby panda poached in its own mother's milk. We're tired of having to deal with the rich and powerful's contempt and demands. She's sacked, having told one too many patrons to go fuck themselves. Nosha Powell plays himself, but as a lager-swilling, hooker-fucking and terrorist-fighting Tory Home Secretary. He's a walking cliché of how the right-wing alpha male sees himself, basically. Who, no matter what he does to debase himself, his poll numbers just keep going up. Basically, a fictional Boris Johnson, except Nosha knows how many kids he has and is somewhat competent. Oh, he also uses 100% less Latin in a strange attempt to make himself sound more intelligent. He does, however, swear and punch people a lot. He also calls British people lazy.
Some people in this country very, very rich, but most of it skinny. You know why? Because you're all lazy bastards. Now, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to close more hospitals and we're going to build more wrecking!
Which, in 1987, when this was first released, was more implied by the Tories than openly said. Our current for now, although the speed things are going and their general incompetence, this may not be true by the end of the week, Chancellor and PM, though they actually co-authored a book that infamously states, once they enter the workplace, the British are among the worst idlers in the world. So I'll give this film this. It was fairly accurate in predicting the direction of the Tories. The third major character is Ronald Allen's character, Commander Fortune, who is a MI5 spy who is seemingly in the pay of the Russians, attempting to foment some form of popular uprising against the government and seemingly failing miserably due to Nosha's mystifying, enduring popularity. These three characters' stories run parallel to each other, occasionally crossing paths, until the very final act where they collide together. Alex, once fired, is instantly homeless, witnesses a terrorist attack on an embassy, and is unable to receive the dough because Miranda Richardson and Nigel Planer basically laugh in her face and refuse to hand any money over. So she kills them, steals the money, and runs away with a new friend she made on the streets to plot an anarchist revolution. Talking of Richardson and Planer, there are so many cameos that I'm just gonna do a montage of them whilst people's names scroll up the screen. Commander Fortune is in a never-ending attempt to derail Nosha, with his underling Spider, who is the Motorhead lead singer, Lemmy. Amongst other things, they set Nosha up with a hooker. She gets pregnant, joins Alex's anarchist revolution, and returns to Bastards to kill all the patrons and workers and then reopen the restaurant, which they name Eat the Rich, because they are feeding the minced remains of the former patrons to the new ones. Nosha throughout this is being a total and utter lout. He does, however, stop a terrorist attack rather hilariously. It's like he's entering a WWE ring rather than a terrorist-occupied embassy. I'm going to be honest, this is kind of where the film lost me plot-wise, so Long story short, mainly because it's not worth going into, Nosher ends up at the restaurant where the hooker gives birth to his baby son, the baby son he has always apparently dreamed of, but never had, leading to him and Alex killing each other and them having one of the funnier moments in the whole film as they lie dying.
Red's black, you've got curly hair, and full of holes.
What?
You.
Okay. What's old, stupid, and only got half a stomach?
What?
You!
The plot is honestly all over the place and unfocused. At times, it has a real punk energy to it, but at other times I was starting to clockwatch as to just how much of the 90-minute runtime remained. As for the political satire, it is so paper thin. I'm amazed Thatcher didn't try to use it as school loo paper. The right are loud, boorish and vile, and the poor, well, they are violent murderous psychopaths. It's not particularly great satire as a result, because satire should take something obviously untrue to make a point about someone or something. The fact the Tories are vile, corrupt, largely incompetent, hate the poor and think they are lazy was always obviously true. They just, until very recently, never said the quiet parts out loud. It's not exactly cutting edge stuff as a result, but it's pretty funny at times as the things they have Nosher say and do are meant to be absurd, but with the hindsight of time, fairly on point. But it does mean the humour is hit and miss. Sometimes hilariously laugh out loud funny, mainly when the film is at its most absurd. At other times it is painfully not so. Like a lot of these 80s low-budget British comedies, it seemingly has all the right ingredients to be hilariously brilliant, but the execution just misses the mark somewhere, either in the script or the casting. The writer and director was Peter Richardson, the mastermind behind The Comic Strip Presents, a Channel 4 comedy show that was famous for bringing some of the 80s hottest comedy talents to the nation's attention, a lot of whom are in this film. They are just in the background or given one or two cameo lines to deliver, whereas the main characters, well, their casting is an interesting choice to say the least. 3 of the 4 characters who get the most screen time aren't really full-time actors. Lana Pillai was a drag queen and disco diva. Nosher Powell was a really famous stuntman, and in fact only landed this gig because they wanted an actor willing to hang off the side of a helicopter, and he was willing to do it. And the legend that is Lemmy is the lead singer of Motorhead. Nosher gives by far the best performance out the 3 of them, being the most naturally funny character, one that is cartoonishly absurd, so all he really has to do is swig lager and shout "fuck off" a lot. Lana is funny in parts, but doesn't come across as a natural comedian or actor in others, and Lemmy plays his part so straight he comes across as a man who has had a charisma transplant with a not particularly charismatic pot plant. He does, however, provide some absolutely banging tunes for the soundtrack that match the overall punk energy and drive the film is aiming for with its narrative. All in all, Eat the Rich is a film that definitely exists. One that swung a broad, satirical brush and as a result paints a passable if not brilliant picture. A lot of unfocused punk energy and a few belly laughs, plus that banging soundtrack make it just about worth a watch if you're into those kinds of things, which of course I am. If you enjoyed that, then like, comment and subscribe, because next week I'll be back with Maniac Cop, a film my nanan let me watch when I was 5. And I'll be honest, I haven't slept properly since.